Hey crafters! Well, I've been getting a wee bit excited about fall and all things fallish. So I think today is the perfect day to introduce a project that has been in the works for a while. I recently started working on a new pattern for a kind of retro inspired shirt dress. You guys might remember I've tried a shirt dress earlier this spring. It was a challenge, but I really like the results. Super wearable, very cute and vintagey. Also, shirt dresses are really popular at this point in time, so hey, great time to try out a new pattern. Today's pattern is a little different. It has a few more embellishments. It has a different type of skirt. Skews a little more 1940s kind of in my mind. So I'm really excited to finally put this pattern to work for a dress. I do happen to have the perfect, I think, fabric for this project. I found secondhand a remnant of kind of a vintage looking apple print fabric. So cute. And a basically matching polka dot fabric that could go with that apple print. So vintagey fabric, vintagey pattern. We got to put this together, and I think this is absolutely the time of year to do it. Come along on today's sewing adventure. See if you get inspired maybe to try a little seasonal sewing of your own. Maybe get yourself your warm beverage. Light your apple spice pumpkin-y fallish candle. And let's roll up our crafty sleeves and get started. Well, here is that fabric, you guys. I got really excited when I found this remnant of apple fabric. I got about 2 yards of it, and it's very retro. Definitely makes me think of like fruit company labels or packing crates with vintage labels on them. And I also really like that they have the apple blossoms and the leaves in there with the apples. I also got some red dot fabric over here. You can see I have about 2 yards of that, but it's in 2 pieces, and there's a stain on one piece that I just noticed. So I think these will go pretty nicely together, but there's not that much of each one. If I need it, I'm going to throw in a little gingham. And yeah, I got that secondhand too. I think that's vintage. So I'm going to iron a bunch of fabric here and try laying out pattern pieces and see how this is going to work. I'm not entirely sure. It might end up being very patchworky, very kind of quilt mixed matched looking, but I want to try it. Let me show you the pattern and I'll tell you what I'm thinking. I got pretty excited when I found this pattern for this cute shirt dress with a lot of different options. I picked this one out especially because it does have some options for different bust sizes, which is super helpful to curvy people out there and to learner sewers like me who have a really hard time making patterns fit me. And yes, I know I need to gain some skills in this area because it's tough. First testing the pattern took a lot of time. I had kind of a hard time deciding what size I thought I would be, so I ended up kind of going big and then going smaller from there. I tried making a 14D bodice mock-up. That was way too big. I tried a 14C. That also didn't work. The weirdest thing was that the darts were really low, like at least an inch too low. So that was weird. I ended up then buying the pattern again, but in the smaller size range, and tested out the 12C, and that seems to work pretty well for me. I had originally intended to make the cap sleeves because I thought that was super cute, but those sleeves ended up just being really tight and really uncomfortable on me. I need a full range or close to a full range of motion with my sleeves, and these just weren't it. They're really not puffed very much at all. There's not a whole lot of ease in them, and they also were seemed kind of high under the arms and then just really tight across the shoulders on me. So yeah, those didn't work for me, but I think we eventually got to the point where it pretty much fit. Opposite of fast fashion, guys. That's what we're doing here. Opposite of fast fashion. Okay, so speaking of the opposite of fast fashion, yeah, we got a lot of pieces to cut out. Oh, did I tell you which one I'm going to try? No, I didn't. Oh my gosh. So I've tried the circle skirt. Today, I think I'm going to be trying more of this straight skirt with like the, what do you call this? A shirt hem? I don't know what you call that. I don't have a whole lot of fabric, so I think this A-line is our only way to go. Then I'm going to be making, of course, the standard bodice without the exterior pockets, and I will be using a puff sleeves pattern from another pattern. So I'll show you that as we go, but I'm hoping that will fit better and use our fabric well. What do we got to do? Well, once we get our pattern pieces cut out and hopefully everything fits, so hopefully we have enough fabric, will be sewing, of course, our darts, and then our cute back pleat for our back bodice, and then we've got a yoke and yoke lining. Very nice. I'm hoping to make the bodice out of the red dot fabric and the skirt out of the apple fabric. We'll see. Of course, we're joining all the shoulders, joining the side seams. Ooh, let's see, hang on. I'm going to be using a different sleeve pattern than they're using. Hopefully I have enough of that red dot fabric to make the bodice and the sleeves of that. Okay, they're talking pockets here, and this is the right skirt. Are they not putting internal pockets on this skirt? Oh no. Okay, they might just be doing external pockets for this skirt design. Huh. I kind of like the internal pockets. Okay, I'm going to think about that. External pockets could be kind of cute, though, because then we could use the contrasting fabric and keep the patchworky vibe going. I don't know. I'm thinking about that. Cute skirt options, which we're not going to do. Oh, and then we've got these front bands for the button and buttonholes. Those are going on both sides of the front. I'm thinking I might end up making this out of the green gingham fabric, and then possibly making the collar out of the green gingham too. We'll see. Of course, they also have a pattern for a cute belt, which could be nice too if we had enough gingham. I don't have a belt buckle yet, but anyway, okay, so that's kind of the plan. Let's make the skirt out of the apple, the bodice with puff sleeves out of the red, possibly the collar and button placket and maybe belts out of the gingham. That sounds a little crazy, but hey, I think this could be cute. I'm going to go iron a ton of fabric and boggle my brain a little bit with some pattern layouts and just see what fits. And I'll show you what we're working with when I got it. Hey guys, well, it is much later today, and finally getting this fabric cut out. But hey, I've got more of this apple print than I thought I did. And also, this narrower skirt takes up a lot less fabric than I thought it would. So, we're going to be able to fit some more pieces in on this fabric. And you might notice by some of my cutting and splicing here, we're going to add some length to the skirt. And I think we're going to have plenty of room to do that. I'm adding about 7 inches to the length, and I cut the pattern pieces where they mentioned it. Granted, by adding that much length, I've kind of thrown off the sides. See how the top piece kind of flares out more here? I'm having to use my yardstick and some tailor's chalk, to try to draw the line. It's a little hard to see, but trying to connect the more A-line edge of that top of the skirt to what could then be the bottom, or the new bottom of the skirt. I've extended the width of the bottom of the skirt by about 3/4 of an inch and use my yardstick to try to kind of draw that in. It's not a perfect A-line. It kind of flares out and comes back in a little bit. Yeah, I know I'm making it more complicated. Does it need to be this complicated? No, it'd be easier to just leave it as is, but I'm going to try it like this because I'm a midi maxi length girl. Just if I can have a little more length, it's a little more versatile to me, especially if I want to wear it to work or something like that. So, hey, I'm going for it. Of course, that means we have to extend our really long piece here, which is our front bands, I think is what they call it. It's going to be where the button holes go and the buttons. A little hard to see, but I have used my chalk and extended it the same amount down there. And hey, look, very cool. I think we're going to have enough fabric for down there at the bottom, the collar and the collar stand. Woohoo! So that means the only pieces we're going to need to use out of the red dot are the bodice pieces, the sleeves, and potentially some little patch pockets to go here on the skirt. Exciting! I'm going to keep on cutting out fabric tonight. I'll get as far as I can. Maybe I'll even pin a few darts or pleats or something like that. And I'll show you the progress next day. Well, good morning, guys. We got all these pieces cut out. We got all the little marks on there with our washable fabric pen. We even got some dartage and some pleatage and some sleevage started over here. So got my front bust darts stitched there. Got this cute little pleat kind of basted down in the back here. Of course, that kind of gets really sewn down once we add this yoke part going across the back shoulders. Hey, we got our sleeves. I've actually been using another sleeve pattern here. You can tell I got those with some gathering stitches in there and sewn up just a little bit. Let's walk on over here. You guys might remember I've done this one before. Really like this pattern, although I had to make a bunch of modifications on it. That's the sleeve I'm kind of going for because it's been really comfortable and it's added a lot of motion because it is a poofy sleeve. I'm not sold on poofy sleeves, but if I can move my arms, more the better. Also got our skirt cut out, our collar. That really long piece back there is the front, or the button placket piece, front band. Although now that I'm looking at my skirt pieces, I'm a little worried. You know how I made the bodice smaller? I went with the smaller bodice size, and that fits pretty well. I also cut out the smaller skirt size, and I don't know if it's going to fit over my hips. Just didn't even think that one through. I'm a little worried. So I'm going to sew it together and see if I have to. I guess I could add like a strip of the red fabric, maybe like at the sides. I don't know. I'm sad to think I messed that up, but I might have. We'll see. I mean, thankfully I do have some more of the red fabric. It does have some stains on it. We'll see what we can do. We'll just try. Okay, so it's time to do a little bit of bodice construction. We got a tuck yoke. Let's look at it. All right, we are here. I have basted the yoke to the back. Excellent. Also, for my yoke facing, we got our little seam allowances turned under and trimmed. Next, we got to kind of make a yoke sandwich. We're going to be stitching on the lining so that all the raw edges on the inside of that yoke are covered up. So, let's see what we got to do. Okay. I've turned the yoke to the back. There we go. All right, here's our yoke lining. Right side of the yoke to the wrong side of the back. Okay, let's switch over to time-lapse. We're going to pin this guy, we're going to sew this guy, and then we're going to show how we're going to use this lining to cover everything up on the inside. Okay, all sewn up and trimmed and pressed. Because here's what we got. Woohoo! So we just stitched the lining on there. It's eventually going to go up like that, cover up that seam. It's going to cover up the shoulder seams. It's going to be all pretty on the inside. That's going to be nice. But before we want to cover up those shoulder seams, we want to attach the bodice front pieces here at the shoulders. So let's double check that. What are we looking at? And front edges of yoke to upper edges of bodice. Stitch, keeping the facing free, you bet. Trim, press seams towards the yoke. Cool, and then we can slip stitch, pressed edge of the yoke over the seams. We'll do a little bit of basting on the edges, and that yoke's gonna do its job. But I think we gotta pin some shoulder seams. We gotta sew some shoulder seams. So let's switch on over to time lapse again. Woohoo, you guys. We finally have ourselves a bodice. Whew. I also have some sleeves ready to go, as you can tell. Before I get those sleeves in, I did make sure to go back and do a little zigzag stitch on the raw edges of my bodice and my sleeves. Just try to kind of keep everything from fraying, try to give a little finish to that, those raw edges. Of course, our next step is to get those sleeves set in there, and my sleeves are different than the pattern. I'm definitely going to have to be gathering in those puffy sleeves and finagling things a little bit to try to make this work, but hopefully should be okay. I'm going to try to match my center dot on my sleeve with my shoulder dot up here and line up my bottom and side hems or seams there, and hopefully it'll work out okay. Of course, once I get those sleeves in, I'll try it on, see what length I like. I'll probably add a little channel for some really thin elastic to gather those sleeves in and hopefully make them very comfy. However, before we tackle the sleeves, I've been stressing out a little bit about the skirt. I think I found a solution, so let's take a little bodice break, head over to the skirt, and I'll show you what I'm working on. Okay guys, we got our skirt panels here. I took a look at our skirt back over here, and I kind of held it up to my body, and I just think it's not going to give me enough wiggle room around my hips, and I need to move and groove in my life. So you can tell we got 2 strips of red fabric. Thank goodness. I had enough red fabric, I think, to add 2 panels down the sides of the skirt. And I hope that will be cute. Hope it'll look like we meant to do it and should give me a little extra room. My panels there are about 5 inches wide, and they're a little bit longer than the skirt panels are. I'm going to need to... Well, you can tell I'm going to need to trim the bottom of these panels to match the curve of the skirt. So I want to leave it a little extra long down there. And then I think I'm also going to leave it a little bit longer at the top as well, and then I'll try to kind of trace the waistband curve a little bit, or at least kind of curve the red a little bit so it kind of fits the curve of the waistband. I'll try to use those skirt panels as kind of a guide to kind of get that to fit in. Hopefully I don't mess it up too badly, but I think we got to do this. We just got to do it. So another thing I'm going to have to do, of course, is then gather my skirt to the bodice because they're not actually going to match. So, have I made my life way more complicated? Absolutely. However, I mean, take a look at this. When we add the pockets, I mean, hey, that could look kind of cute, right? Why don't we just, like, tell people that it's supposed to have red panels down the side and just roll with it? Let's say it's a stylistic choice. Yeah? Oh, also, I may end up having to move the pocket pieces a little to the, like, well, more like outer sides a little bit because I'm adding fabric to the skirt and I don't want them to just look like they're in the front. So I may move those a tiny bit too. Complications, guys, complications, but let's just do this. I'm going to pin some panels together here and we're just going to do it. Phew. Well, I think we got the skirt salvaged. Mine looks a lot more complicated than theirs. And yeah, I realized adding the rectangular strips of fabric to the sides is gonna mess with the A-line of the skirt. I guess I could have tapered those a little bit, like made kind of triangular inserts instead of the lines of fabric. Yeah, I'm sorry if the sewer people out there are yelling at the screen telling me I did it wrong, because I may have. Sorry. But I just didn't want to deal with any more complications, so I went for it. I did hold the skirt up to my body, and I think when it's gathered, it's gonna look okay. and we did trim the edges to try to make it all even. Well, I think it'll be all right. So, pocket time, guys. We are looking at their cool little pocket idea here. I think the pocket goes on kind of like just like a patch pocket, but we got to make it first. So they want you to turn in 1/4 inch on the upper edge and press. I did that on both of these guys. Then you're supposed to turn the upper edge to the outside, kind of like I did on this guy, along a fold line, and then stitch the ends and trim them. I don't think I trimmed those corners particularly nicely at all, but then we got to turn upper edge of pocket to the inside. Of course, I'll use my little pocket pokey thing to make that better. Turning in remaining seam allowance, which I marked with my ruler just so I actually get it right. Diagonally folding corners. Oh, that's going to be fun. Do I know how to do that? I don't know if I know how to do that. And press. I'm going to play with that. Yeah. No. Yes. Something like that. It's something like that. Okay, I'm going to play with that. Then we got to press it. Okay. Then they want you to baste that close. Okay, cool. And then I guess we're back out here. Top stitch along the basting. Okay, cool. And finally, and only then, can we pin the pockets to the skirt fronts, matching the symbol. Okay, let's fold some pocket thingies, and then I'll get them on that skirt. Oh my word. I think my next step, and I put my directions somewhere else, my next step is to get the sleeves on there. So I may pin my sleeves into my bodice tonight. We'll see how far I get. Always takes longer than you think it's going to, but we're getting there. Pocket time. Let's do it. Well, here's one of the little pockets. Pretty cute. I gotta say though, ironing this and getting the corners and stuff, like, and then like stitching this, basting it, and then having to stitch it again from the outside, and kind of fiddly, like definitely more time consuming than a little tiny pocket needs to be. Next time I might just cut 2 of each pocket and stitch them together like a little pillow and leave a little hole and like, you know, like right here or something, and turn them right sides out and press and just stitch that on. Note to self. Also, I'm not going to be moving a pocket placement because otherwise it'll hit into my extra fabric there. So I'm just going to put them on where they're supposed to be. I'll have to show you that when it's done. Well, hello again, guys. It is a few days later. We're jumping back in. You can tell we've got a skirt and a top. We have a few more pieces here waiting on the side to step into play. I got our sleeves on our bodice. And you guys noticed I was also pinning, and then I stitched a rolled hem, making a nice little tube all around our sleeve. I did leave a little gap, like right about there, in the sewing so that I can insert some thin elastic in there, and hopefully that'll poof up these sleeves. Hopefully be very cute. I'm actually thinking that maybe this dress will skew a little 40s, maybe? I don't know, with the puff sleeves at the top and the longer length. I don't know. We'll see. That would be pretty fantastic. These bands over here are fabric, the long bands. One of them has some interfacing on there. They are waiting to get stitched to the front. One goes to the left side, one goes to the right side. of the dress, but of course that means this has to be a dress. So we're going to have to be pinning the top to the skirt and stitching that. Now normally that would be pretty straightforward, but I do have to add a little bit of gathering and stitching across the top of our skirt because I added some fabric. So I'm going to need to gather that skirt a little bit and then pin it to our top. And then, of course, we'll have a dress and we can be adding the bands. Excellent. Let's keep going. Well, you guys, we now officially have a dress. Yay! We've got the 2 front bands on here. I did trim our seam allowance. And we have a few more jobs to do on this band. Some of you, though, might have noticed that somehow I made my front band about 2.5 inches too short. Don't know how I did that, because I thought I did it right. Apparently I didn't. Love it when that happens. I just patched a piece right on there. I am going to need to trim both sides, but yeah, let's just say it's fashion, okay? If anybody asks, it's totally intentional. It's fashion, right? Okay, so we need to talk finishing this band. Well, of course we're going to have to put buttonholes and buttons on here, but before we can do that, we're going to need to do some ironing. I'm going to need to iron my raw edges inward, and then we're going to be folding over. We got this lovely pressed edge, folding it over to the inside, pinning, and I'll get this lovely front band. I'm going to do it on both sides, and that's of course where the buttonholes go and the buttons. That's going to be really nice. I will say the directions tell you to, of course, pin this down and then slip stitch it by hand on both sides. And then later they have you top stitch down both sides of both bands. And my lazy self does not want to do that. I do not feel like slip stitching both sides of this. I'm going to be pinning it over the seam, over all the raw edges, and then I'm going to top stitch just a little ways from the edge on both sides, and that should stitch it down. It may not look as beautiful, and I know there are good reasons for doing it the right way, but no, ain't nobody got time for that. Not gonna do it. Sorry. Okay, once we do that, then we got a top collar. Let's take a little peek at those directions real quick. Okay, well, we've got our collar pieces. I've actually stitched these guys together. One is interface, the other is not. I've trimmed the seam allowance and the corners. Like that guy. Then we've got our two collar stand pieces. One is interfaced. Okay, let's see what we're doing here. We're here. Let's see if we can zoom in a little bit. Cool. All right, we've got our collar stitched together. I need to turn it right sides out, and then they have me baste the unstitched edge close and do a little top stitching. Okay, cool. I need to get one of my collar band, or my collar stands. Collar stand? I think it's a collar stand. Collar band. They're calling it a collar band. Okay, gotta iron an edge under. And then I kind of make a collar band sandwich. I pin one collar band on the outside, or one collar band goes on one side of the collar and the other band goes on the other. And then we stitch it down, and when we turn it right sides out, the collar stands up in the middle and the band pieces fold down on either side. And then, of course, we can stitch that to the top of the bodice and edge stitch it. So we got to do all these things to make it pretty. Okay, it's getting a little late tonight, guys. I'm gonna work on that front band. I got to do that, and then we got to do a little collar construction. So I'm gonna film as much as I can, and I will show you tomorrow how close we're coming. I think we're getting pretty close. So it's gonna take a little bit of time, but we got this. And we're back, you guys. It is another new day, and you saw that, hey, we got that front band stitched on there. I did leave the bottom edge of that front band unstitched because they want us to leave that unstitched until we hem. We roll a narrow hem, and we're going to finish that front band to go over the rolled hem to make it all nice and pretty. So that's open a little bit. And we got our collar pieces and collar bands pinned together. Woohoo! Man, I gotta say, every step in this dress takes a lot of time, but I am really liking how this is looking. So let's get to pinning that collar on. Let's do it. Let's look at those next steps. Okay. We got our collar all sewn together. They want us to pin the collar band to the neck edge. Stitch it, press it, trim it. Cool. Press the seam towards the collar band. Awesome. So we gotta sew. Oh, we got our collar here. We gotta go sew this part to the dress. And then, of course, we've got this excellently ironed under edge from our collar lining, and that's gonna cover over all the raw edges on the inside. Awesome. Okay, Then they want us to, oh, we gotta slip stitch that down. Yes, I will actually be doing that. Then we got edge stitch. Oh my gosh, we get our collar on there and we make it look all pretty. Cool. I want to do that right now. I've been itching to get this collar on there, so let's do it. But hey, before we get carried away, let's take a peek at what we got to do with this hem. Gonna see if we can zoom in just a little bit here. Fantastic. Okay, I'm looking at this guy. Turn the lower edge of front band to the outside along the fold line. Stitch across, then you trim it. Okay, so we're making a little corner on that front band. And we can turn it right side out again. It'll be a nice, neat corner. And then, let's see, it looks like they're having us roll a really narrow hem. We're stitching a 1/4 inch from the lower edge of the dress, and we're going to use that to help us roll the hem. And then that rolled hem kind of gets nicely tucked into this band. Okay, let's take a little look at that. Okay. Whoa, sorry. There we go. Okay, here's one of our front bands. Okay, so we left the bottom edge unstitched. For this very reason, we're gonna come on back here. Pin him closed. Maybe neater than what I'm doing right now. Cool. And I'm going to stitch about 5/8 of an inch up there. I'm realizing I may have my skirt stitched a little too far down this band. I may need to raise that up a little bit. But once I stitch across, then we'll be able to turn it right side out. And, you know, just theoretically, not like this, but kind of, there'll be a nice little corner. Cool. Then I roll my hem into that. Okay. Whew. That comes next. Let's talk collar. Oh, and then of course, I gotta get a whole bunch of buttonholes on here. But you know what? Collars first, people. Priorities. Collars first. Hi again, guys. Yeah, it is another new day. We're spending parts of multiple days on this project. But hey, we got a lot of good stuff going on here. We got a collar. Yay. I'm proud. I like that collar. Oh, look. Hey, we even have some buttonholes. I'm really glad I'm now better friends with my buttonhole foot. Because when I lengthened the skirt, I added more. I think I have like 11 buttonholes. That may have been a mistake. But anyway. Also, hey, this curvy swervy hem was a little bit of a pain. But they did have us, so a little line of stitches, kind of hard to see. A little line of stitches about a 1/4 inch from the bottom. And then when we rolled the hem, we could kind of tug on that thread a little to gather things up. Definitely needed that help on some of the curvy, swervy bits. But we did it. Oh, and then we got that cool little corner thingy. See if I can turn it the other way out without stabbing myself on a pin. Okay, so there was... Hang on a minute. Tripod. There we go. All right, hands-free option. So there was our little corner that we sewed on the bottom band, and they did have us trim it to make the corner nicer, but I don't know. Did we really need to trim it? Because I had to kind of cut anyway, yeah, I don't know. I'm still figuring this out. But you turn it like that, and it's super cute. I guess we're supposed to sew the hem first, and then we can pin this open part of the band closed, and they would have a slip stitch it, but I think I'm gonna pin it and top stitch it, and then I gotta top stitch it from the other side. But then that'll be all nice. What else do we have to do here? Okay, so we gotta do the hem. Oh, we gotta tack sleeves. Let's check that out. Okay, so we still have these big poofy sleeves, and we need to get some elastic in there. I'm using the old safety pin technique with my 1/4 inch elastic. And I did leave a little gap somewhere over here. There we go. And I'm going to use the safety pin to help me squish the elastic through there. Once I get the elastic going all the way around, I'm going to try the dress on and just kind of like, pull on the elastic and play with it. Try to get it to a point where I like it and like pin it and just kind of wear it for a minute. See how elasticy I want it to be. And then once I find one that I, find the measurement I like, I'll trim the elastic and I'll take it out of one sleeve and measure it for the next sleeve. So they're the same length. And then, of course, I'll need to sew the elastic closed once I get it back in there. And I can sew that little gapy hole closed too. Let's see, we're almost there. Okay, where are you? I know you're here, safety pin. Thank you. Cool. Okay, so I could like scrunch that up a little bit, move our scrunches a little bit. Yeah, I probably won't want it to be tight, so it may be a little less scrunchy than this, but yeah, theoretically, once I get it to where I want it to be, I will, overlap the edges of elastic flat, sew them closed, sew up that little gap in the tube, and we'll have a poofy sleeve. Excellent. Okay, so hem time, sleeve time. I do need to sew on 9 million buttons. Oh, and carefully open all the buttonholes. Sew on the buttons. And then you guys, I think we're gonna have a dress. Finally. So, yeah, thank you for coming on the sewing journey. This one was kind of involved, but I'm liking how this is turning out. Sometimes that's how sewing is, right? Like, it's always going to take longer than you think it is, but, can be worth it, right? I'm going to get to hemming. I'm going to get to sleeving. I'm going to get to buttoning. And I'll show you what this looks like when I'm done. Well, we did it, you guys. Yay! Gotta say, shirt dresses always take longer than I think they're going to. And that's kind of silly because they have all these parts and it takes time, and I need to just remember that. Of course, it also takes longer if you make some goofs and have to add panels to your skirt and, stuff like that, or change a sleeve pattern or whatever. So, it was a journey, but I'm really glad we did it because I'm loving this thing. I'm actually loving those panels on the skirt. I think those are really bringing in that retro vibe for us. Of course, those patch pockets on the front. Oh, yeah. And then it's really grateful to have these green plastic buttons and enough of them to go all the way down. I'm really getting a vintagey vibe from this, kind of like maybe like late 30s, early 40s with the length of the skirt. I don't know. That's kind of the vibe I'm feeling. I think this thing is going to be so much fun to wear, and I definitely want to make this pattern again in some other prints now that we've kind of tested it out, and I know I'm going to have to make some modifications to it to make it work, but I think it's going to be great. Hey, if you guys get behind going on the sewing journey, learning stuff, making goofs, fixing stuff, and just going for it and making what you like, give this video a big thumbs up and consider subscribing for more fun stuff from Partners in Craft. We're always learning, growing, doing, and making stuff over here, so hope you stick around for more adventures. Speaking of adventures, I have an apple-themed fair that I'm going to, and so I think this dress will be fantastic for that. I'm going to put an outfit together, I'll show you what that looks like, and then I'll show you a little fun times from our adventure. See you there!